The Renaissance period is marked as the period between the close of the Middle Ages and the rise of the modern world. But what was the Renaissance period about? This period was known as a cultural movement that spread throughout Europe from the 14th century to the 17th century, based on the rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman ideas. One of the cultural movements that was present during this time was the spread of Renaissance art. The Renaissance first took place in Italy and didn't spread into Northern Europe until later in the late 1500s. Now, before we talk about the arts, let's discuss the idea of humanism, which influenced Renaissance art. Humanism was a foundation for many of the Greek achievements, which encouraged human potentialities. But what was it about humanism that was appealing? Well, it sought to emphasize the thought of humans as individuals and stressed the idea that people weren't perfect. What were some effects of humanism? Well, the effects of humanism on Renaissance art were that 1. There was an emergence of an individual rather than a symbolic figure. 2. There was a greater approach to the attention of details and realistic elements. And 3. There was an emphasis on virtuous action, which reflected that man controlled human destiny. With the exploration of virtue in the arts, there also came an examination of vice and human evil. As humanism contributed to the rise of the Renaissance, artists were able to develop new techniques of art, such as the linear perspective, the concept of shadows and light, and realism, which enhanced paintings to make them look more natural and realistic. Unlike medieval art, you notice that Renaissance art focused more particularly on portraying how things looked, rather than focusing heavily on religious values. Some of the most important artists of the Renaissance period were Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, and so forth. Leonardo da Vinci was one of the most skilled artists during the Renaissance, and his desire to paint realistic figures became a standard to painters who followed after him. Leonardo da Vinci once said,
I love those who
This is a demonstration
who can
of
gather strength
Flippermac.
from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but they whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves their conduct will pursue their principles unto death.
and the greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. Leonardo da Vinci contributed to many art techniques such as chiaroscuro, defining art by light and shadow, and sfumato, creating atmosphere and depth, and also paved the way to draw accurate figures as he studied human anatomy. Another artist of the Renaissance was Michelangelo, who considered Leonardo da Vinci to be his rival. Although both believed in the idea of humanism, Michelangelo saw nature as an enemy to be overcome, which contradicted with Leonardo da Vinci's beliefs. Michelangelo's works were more powerful and dynamic, painting more of muscular bodies rather than the ideal human figure that Da Vinci preferred. Michelangelo once said that, "The true work of art is but a shadow of the divine perfection." Overall, during the Renaissance period, artists became more recognized as independent personalities and were highly regarded as they were comparable to people who were writers or poets.